What the fuck is up, YouTube? So, today we're going to talk about the worst drug deal that ever was and the fallout from that scenario. Okay? So, first things first, obviously, I have to thank you guys for showing up. That's half the battle and a lot of shit. But, if you watch my videos, cool. I'm trying to make some more shorts, whatever. But I like telling these stories. There's a lot in them, and I can't fit them into a minute. Like, it would be a shitty story if I tried to fit it into 60 seconds. Like, these things, there's lots of details, and it's not just whatever, okay? So, also, I want to give an extra special shout out to one of my subscribers and one of my best friends, Eric, who is in probably 90% of these stories with me because he was right there with me. Because he'll watch my videos and he'll literally text me and be like, yo, you forgot about the security guard that they put out there to watch us, or like shit like that. Honestly, I don't remember. Like, I'm talking about things that are 15 years old. So like we have different memories and whatnot. And I always thought I had a pretty good one, but it's just like, it's nice that he's there to like not only verify it, but like to tell me like, oh well, like what about when this happened? And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that. And so like it's cool to have somebody like that like knows exactly like kind of how shit went down, and that supports me and my channel. Like, honestly, like it's nice to get a text or a message or something saying, yo, I like that video or whatever. It'd be cool if more of you guys did that, but apparently you guys don't like a lot of my shit. That I guess it's too boring. Trafficking drugs as a child through Mexico and stuff like that. I guess that's too boring for you guys. So I gotta choose things that are about robberies and fucking times going on jail for you guys to be entertained. So hey, if that's what it is, I got stories for it. So let's get into the mix. I hate doing this shit. I hate when people do these monologues that take 20 minutes to get into the video. So, anyways, this all started on a summer day when I was between 15 and 16. I know a lot of, like, I know if anyone's been continuously watching, it's just like, damn, dude, like, how much shit were you doing when you're 15, 16? A lot. A lot of grown up type shit that, like, normal 16-year-olds were probably not doing at the time, okay? So, this was on a day that I can remember that I was still in rehab, so I couldn't smoke weed because we'd get urine tested and stuff. So, what do you think I did? I was like, I'm just gonna stop doing drugs and abstain from doing drugs as a 15-year-old teenager. No, I fucking started doing a whole bunch of other shit that doesn't show up on drug tests, like fucking mushrooms and acid, and started drinking, which I never even liked drinking, but it like became like one of the few things I could do where all my other homies are, doing their own things, and it's like the only thing that I can do that can get in and out of my system quick enough that if they spring a test on me, like I wasn't going to like, fail it. And I have a couple funny stories about drug tests at that facility specifically that like I kind of snuck my way out of, that like it was just kind of fate. I don't even know how else. I'll make a video about it. So anyways, I can just remember this because I couldn't smoke. So that's like a very specific window in my time of when I was right after I got kicked out of school and started being in rehab, and then ending up like going from school to school. I was in rehab the entire time, going from school to school to school until it was done. So I get a call one day, and it's from my boy Nick, who I've known for years. And he says, yo, do you know where I can get some blow? And I'm like, think for a second. And, I'm someone who's kind of always had a lot of irons in the fire, as or just acquaintances, whatever. And I had a neighbor that lived down my street that just a couple weeks previously, he had served me $500 worth of coke, and it was for, I hate to say this, it was for people at the rehab. Not just one guy in the car was at the rehab, and the other people, I don't remember their names, faces, whatever, but the main person who, why I was there, was someone that I was in rehab with, which this is the same person that, if you've seen my video on how I caught a trafficking charge, this is the same exact person. Okay, that was him. So I figured, yeah, I got somebody for you. Like, so I call up that we're gonna call this guy Pothead Chris. Okay, so call Pothead Chris, and it hadn't even been a month since the last time that I came at him with like a pretty good sale. So I was like, yo, like, do you have any more? My boy needs some. Blah blah blah, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, like whatever, like shoot him my number. Like, it was like very casual. Okay, so I call my homie Nick back, and I'm like, yo, yeah, I got somebody who you know he's got you, he's local, you don't have to drive, he doesn't have to drive. Like, they both lived close enough to where, like, literally they almost basically lived on the same street, just like kind of like around a corner. Like, it's hard to describe, but it's literally like, if I was on a bike, I could bike from one house to another in like 5 minutes. So it's very close. So they decide to meet up at an elementary school that I lived across the street from. When I moved to Torrance, I moved to this house that was across from an elementary school and a park, which was super fucking annoying because people would always be like, hey, remember that one time at Anza? That was the elementary school name. Remember that time that Miss blah 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 did this? Or remember when this fool did this or whatever? And I'm like, no, I don't. Because I wasn't here. I didn't go to this fucking school. I came here in 6th grade when middle school started, and I didn't know anybody. So that shit happened to me for years. Remember this, remember that? And I'm like, nope, I don't. Thanks for, making me feel so forgettable, like, so anyways, that was where they decided to meet. And that was all the information that I had. That was all the information I had, was like, like giving my number, like, and like I think I kind of explained like a way that, like, a place where they could meet that would kind of be in the middle for both of them, which was the park right by my house, literally across the street. So they go to meet up. Now, these guys have not met each other before. Maybe they had in other dealings or whatever, but to my knowledge, had never met each other before. Okay, so it's a hard thing to kind of speak on because it's kind of like a he said type thing, because, or it's like, who fired the first shot, like, because like one person will claim that the other person started it or whatever. So, but I refuse to believe that my boy Nick called me specifically for me to call someone to set up to jack. Like, that just doesn't, like, Nick didn't need to jack anybody. Like, it just didn't have to go down like that. So I find it way more probable that this guy that, remember, we're calling him Pothead Chris, okay? Not like the best nickname in the world, right? So I have a much more faith in him trying to pull something over. And I was right, because I found out that this fool actually brought 2 bags with him. One of them had the actual coke in the bag. The other bag had crushed up Tylenol in it. And he decided after, my boy Nick, he's tatted the fuck up. He's been tatted up like for like I couldn't even tell you how long, but neck and hands, everywhere that you can think of, from like being 17, 18 or something. He's blasted. Like, I'm not saying that makes him like a scary dude or something. He's like a really good guy, but he's just somebody that, like, if I saw him and I didn't know him, I wouldn't be like, I'm gonna try to pull a fast one on this guy, you know. But pothead Chris probably didn't make the best decisions, you know. So he tries to give him the bag of crushed up Tylenol. Nick, who's not a novice in the game whatsoever, the opposite of a novice, fucking immediately touches it, tastes it, realizes that it's bullshit, gets pissed off about it, beats the shit out of him, and goes in his pockets and takes the actual bag that he was supposed to get, that he was going to pay for, and he was like, fuck that, I'm not going to pay this guy that just tried to like get over on me. So he fucking took what was in his pockets. Okay? So that is how that went down. Okay? There's much more to the story. So that happened, and after that happened, like, Chris was on a warpath to get Nick. Like, he was just, and like the thing about it is Nick is involved in this like group of people that, like, I consider them family. Like, they're literally I've been there, I've known them for like longer than probably most anyone that I've known, and like they've just been like a second family to me. And there's a lot of other people that have that same kind of relationship with this family, so it's kind of like a large group. I'm not going to call it a gang, because it's not a gang at all, but it's just a big group of friends that have just always have each other's backs, and you know, that's just how it goes. So I don't think he realized that when he was trying to come at one person, it's kind of like you're going to have to come at like more than one person. Like, there's going to be people that are going to have Nick's back. There's going to be multiple people to have his back, which was the case. So what happens is they want like it's kind of like back and forth of like even though like Nick beat the shit out of him and took his shit, whatever, like, because people were telling him like, yo, you better, like, you know, you're lucky, like they were kind of like, I don't know, threatening him, or I don't want to say threatening him, but kind of just like talking stern to him or whatever. It kind of built this resentment in him for people that weren't even involved in the situation that originally happened. Like, it was just people that like were like, nah, you're not gonna fucking beat up my homie, like, what's up? Like, you're gonna have to, it was like, you're gonna have to go through me and him and him and him. Like, it's not that simple, you know? So that started him having a beef with like fucking like 5 people at once. Like, literally, it went from just one person to like a group of people. Okay? So someone who got involved into the mix is my boy Eric's brother, Alex. Shout out to both of them. Those are my fucking guys. So Alex, he's a very loyal individual, always has been a stand-up guy that I've respected and looked up to. He's a year older than me, and his little brother is a year younger than me, so I'm like right in between them and stuff. And he's just somebody that, like, you know, we've never had no bad blood or anything. Like, it's just always been like family type shit, you know. So he's like, they're kind of both on the hunt for each other, but Pothead Chris has multiple people that are kind of like asking about him. They're asking me where he lives, you know, and like that puts me in a weird position because I'm not trying to be the one to point out someone's house that gets burned down or some shit, you know. So like, not that I wanted to like have Pothead Chris's back or anything, but it was just a weird situation. Put yourself in those shoes. I know it's hard. People don't have empathy anymore these days, but like, it was weird. But I figured that it was going to come to a climax eventually, which it did. So after a while of like them trying to find each other and stuff, whatever, like, it gets to a point that like not even a week had gone by. Like, a lot of this stuff happened very fast. Okay, so there was a night that like Pothead Chris, like, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but like I was like 15, 16 in this, and he was like 8 years older than me. Like, he was way older than me. Like, I would be at his house and he would be talking with a friend about, hey, remember that time in 8th grade when we did angel dust and PCP? That was fun. Like, literally, that was an actual conversation I heard him have with someone. And the characters that I met over there, fucking, I could write a book about that shit, but I'm not gonna get into that. So, what ends up happening is I meet up with him behind a grocery store. And what I would do at the time, because I couldn't smoke and I was selling bars at the time, is I would get somebody to steal alcohol and then I would just pay them in Xanax. So Pothead Chris would literally take a duffel bag and go inside of like a Vaughn's and just fill it up with those like 3-pack of tall cans or whatever, and he would just fill that shit up and then just like hand the bag off, and then I gave him his pills, and I can still remember him taking the pills, putting them in his mouth, and just crunching them and eating them like that. And I had never seen somebody do that before, so I was kind of taken back, like, damn. Because if you don't know, like, that it takes away the like time release or whatever, so that like basically it's all hitting you at once. Like, that's what the point of the pills, like not all pills, I guess, but some of them, like, that's the point of it being the way it is. And it's no different than taking a oxy or whatever and then busting it down, and then when you do that, then the time release is gone, and then you're getting everything at once instead of every hour a little bit or something. Okay, so it's a much more intense version of getting barred out. Okay, so I give him his shit, he gives me my beer, me and my friends go on our way, like, we're 16 at the time with a duffel bag full of beer, like, we're pretty like, oh, cool, so that's how that night goes. And it was just a normal night after that, like, just nothing that I can really remember. Okay, the next day I wake up and I see that my phone has gotten blown up throughout the night and the morning while I was sleeping of just missed calls. And like, there were different numbers. There was numbers I recognized, there was numbers I didn't recognize, so I really didn't know. So I wanted to call like somebody that I knew. So I ended up calling Eric, which is Alex's little brother. Okay, so he proceeds to tell me that that same night, right after we parted ways with Pothead Chris, he, I guess, had found out where Nick lived, which was somewhere that was not very secluded, honestly. Like, it was not like you didn't have to go around like a snaky street or anything. It was just like, boom, right there. Okay, and during the middle of the night, they're there, and mind you, he has younger siblings, like, and at the time they were especially like younger, not now, but like at that time, 15 years ago, younger. So during the night, this fool Pothead Chris took a surfboard that was on the side of the house and he fucking throws it through the living room window. And he just starts going off and just making a scene and yelling at the top of his lungs and like just all this stuff. And my boy Nick, his stepdad, was like the gnarliest dude that I've ever met. And on top of that, he was like 100% Australian. So he had that like Aussie, like, I don't even know how to like properly describe that, but he just had that like badassness, like it was like in his blood, you know what I'm saying? Like having knives that were bigger than people's faces and shit. Like it was regular. So him and Pothead Chris start going at it straight up on the front lawn of their house. Like they just start fighting, like literally. And then the cops start coming. So Nick's dad actually had a fucking knife on him and he tossed it into the bushes, and thankfully nobody ever found that, whatever. and he didn't use it or anything. He just like had it and, you know, like whipped it out, but like it never got used. No one got stabbed, nothing like that. Okay. But like, you know, what would you do if you're sleeping and all of a sudden you hear a big crash and your window's fucking broken and there's a surfboard hanging out, you know? So he's like making this scene, and the cops come, and when the cops get there, like he's like calling them racial slurs, and he's spitting on them, and they put the spit mask. Like, I'd pay money for that body cam footage. I mean, this was so long ago, I don't even know. Like, I know body cams have been a thing for a while, but I would be surprised if it was the way it is now all the way back then. But I would pay, I don't even know how much money for that like specific body cam footage, because he was just spitting and just fucking saying just everything that you wouldn't want to say. I'm pretty sure he threatened a couple cops that he was going to kill him, which that definitely gets you, that's like an automatic charge. Like, it's just like he just like added charges on to himself, you know. So they end up taking him away, and now this has created a new beef of like like you know, it's like, I guess he thought he was getting his get back or whatever, when if he hadn't tried to be a fucking scoundrel in the first place and just give the right shit, none of that would have happened. But he tried to pull a fast one on the wrong one, and he fucked around and found out, I guess, as the kids would say. So that happens, and you know, like the whole time, like his number, like there was communication between like certain people and him that like might not have been Nick, but it would be like, you know, his best friend or someone that was within like the circle, you know. And this fool, I can remember, because I was required to go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings like twice or three times a week when I was in rehab or whatever. And I ran into my homie's brother, who he was on house arrest at the time, but that was one of the few places that they would let him go with his ankle monitor, because it had to do with his court thing. Because if you haven't seen my video about the craziest brawl, like he would always go and steal alcohol, and like carts full of alcohol, of fucking Grey Goose and like top notch shit, no like Milwaukee's best or whatever. And like he did that shit for the longest, ended up getting popped for it. Then finally he was in placement, he was in like a couple different places, and then he's back. But you know, he had an ankle bracelet and other stuff. So I see him at this Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that like a lot of people go to, because it's really one of the few ones that are in this area. So it gets a lot of different people from different cities or whatever. So I see him there, and you know, like I've known him for fucking like a good amount of time. So like obviously I'm gonna say what's up to my boy, you know. So we're sitting together, and he starts talking to me about like, we start talking about the situation at hand, you know. Because what had happened is Pothead Chris had gotten a hold of Alex's cell phone. And I can even remember it was a BlackBerry. That's how long ago this was. He had a BlackBerry. Because I know this because he played me the voicemails that he was leaving for Alex at all hours of the night, and he would literally be like strumming a guitar with like no tune or anything, just like anybody who picked up a guitar that didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and just like that. But he'd be like singing these like devilish type songs, like I'm gonna burn your house down. That was one for sure. I remember hearing that one for sure. I'm sure there were more than that, but like he would literally just like for like minutes on minutes on minutes leave these voicemails, and it would be like, I'm gonna burn your house down, and like he's threatening someone who like all Alex did was try to back up his homie. Like he wasn't the one that beat him up. He didn't do anything physical to him or anything like that. But just because like they weren't about to let shit go down like that, you know, like this fool like kind of poked the bee's nest, if you will. So I can just remember sitting there and listening to these voicemails. He's just like showing me voicemail after voicemail after voicemail of just this like, it seriously reminded me of a horror movie of like a toy that comes to life or some shit that wants to like kill people, like Chucky, I guess. I've never seen any of those movies, but something like that, where it's just, I'm gonna burn your house down. I'm gonna burn your house down. And you could just hear in his voice how unhinged he was and how like this dude like needed help. Like there was just something that was wrong. So from then, like, you know, people were kind of on alert of like, you know, like what the fuck's gonna happen, you know? And like, you know, I used to think it was bullshit, but as time goes on, I find it to be more truer that time kind of does heal most, if not all, wounds. Because, like, that kind of fizzled out. If I'm missing anything, then, you know, I'll definitely find out from my boy Eric. But, like, to my knowledge, that was kind of like where it ended. Like, yeah, he left those voicemails, and like, of course, we're not gonna get the cops involved because like the cops already hated us and our family and everything, you know. So like that was never an option in the first place. So everybody was kind of a little like, it's not like they were like super on edge or anything like that, but it was just something of kind of like, you know, like, well, like this fool is like, this fool already threw a surfboard through a window in the middle of the night. Now he's leaving messages talking about taking your house and dousing it in gasoline and burning it on. Like he was getting into like details about it. Like it wasn't just, I'm gonna burn your house down. Like he was talking about like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get your brother, and I'm gonna get your sister. Like shit that like you don't say shit like that. Like you don't. Like especially like to like just the people who aren't involved and people that are like way younger and stuff, and especially a female. Like he's lucky he didn't get fucked up right then and there, honestly. But pretty much it just kind of fizzled out, and I actually like years later, like I after that happened, didn't talk to the guy. He lived on the end of my street. I didn't live there. I only lived there for like 3 years, so I wasn't there for a super long time. But I can actually remember a night where one of my other homies, I don't know how, he kept in contact with him somehow. I think he might still even like know how to get in contact with him. So maybe I can get him to tell his side of the story. I don't know. But we met up with him at the park across the street from my house where everything started, and we were just smoking cigarettes, just like talking, and like he kind of finally admitted like, yeah, like I shouldn't have did that. Like I like it took fucking all this dramatic shit happening and everything, but finally he like, it got to him, which, you know, pothead Chris, remember, you know, he's not fucking mathematician Chris, okay? So finally he realizes like, yeah, like I shouldn't have done that, and he ended up apologizing to like everybody and like saying how, you know, he was messed up and blah blah blah, and it really fizzled out and didn't turn into anything more from that. But anyways, that's my time, and that's the absolute worst drug deal that did not stand a chance from the jump to whatever. Never stood a chance, and that's the fallout that happened from it. So hopefully you guys like the story. Please subscribe, comment, whatever. Like I'm here. Like don't, whatever. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But anyways, have a good one.